Granville Stanley Hall was born on February 1st, 1844 in Ashburn, Massachusetts. His father, Granville Bascom Hall, served in the Massachusetts legislature, and his mother, Abigail Bell, studied and taught at the Albany Female Seminary. They passed on to their son the love of learning and as well as a strong sense of religious devotion. Hall grew up determined to contribute to the world. He initially planned to become a minister, but later changed his career path. His mother, Abigail, pushed him into ministry. In 1858, at the age of 14, Stanley Hall reported that he began a journey of his own. He climbed a tree and had a day-long vigil. It was then that he made a vow to himself that he would leave the farm and would become someone in the world. Stanley Hall found his first independent job as a schoolmaster in 1860. In 1862, Stanley Hall left Asheville, Massachusetts for Williston Academy. In 1866, Stanley Hall joined a literacy club named Junto. Stanley Hall graduated from Williams College. Upon graduating in 1867, he wanted to study abroad but did not have the necessary funds to do so, so he instead attended a seminary that same year. Due to the lack of funds, Stanley Hall attended Union Theological Seminary in New York, although after 10 weeks as a church pastor, he decided to leave as a divinity student for the span of a year and later he could go abroad to study. In 1867, in the span of a year, Stanley Hall traveled to Germany where he studied psychological and psychological at laboratories in Berlin and Leipzig. He also spent the time investigating the possibilities of applying psychology to education. In 1878, Stanley Hall then undertook a research with H.P. Waldwich at Harvard Medical School and was awarded the first Ph.D. in psychology in the United States. In 1882, Stanley Hall was appointed lecturer in psychology and pedagogy at Johns Hopkins University, becoming a professor in 1884. The professorship was the first chair in the new field of psychology in the country. Hall was a major force in organizing the field, focusing on scientific approaches, and in 1883 establishing a psychological laboratory at the university. In 1887, Stanley Hall founded the first psychological journal in America, the American Journal of Psychology. Explores the science of the mind and behavior, publishing reports of original research, experimental psychology, theoretical presentations, combined theoretical and experimental analysis, historical commentaries, and in-depth reviews on significant books. In 1889, House became the first president of Clark University of Worcester, Massachusetts, and remained the president until his death in 1924. He envisioned Clark as a major graduate school and invited several leading scholars to join the faculty, including anthropologist Franz Boas and biologist C.O. Whitman. In 1892, he was appointed as the first president of the American Psychological Association. In 1894, Stanley Hall secured a position in the philosophy department at Johns Hopkins, teaching psychology and pedagogy. In 1904, he was the first psychologist to advance on the psychology of adolescents and its own use to scientific methods to study them. In 1902, he attended a conference in New York. This will be the first and last time he made a trip to the United States. In 1917, he founded the Journal of Applied Psychology. This journal is still applied today in the study for psychology and the more understanding.
Is that including the second one already?
In 1924, Stanley Hall passed away, but still remains an important part of psychology's history.
Can you add time to it? More.